Hey friends, I'm studied on Johnston. And over the past couple of days, we've had thousands of people that have found this channel because of a video that I shared about the Nancy Guthrie case in Tucson, which is a couple hours south of me. And that video created a lot of conversation, and I've received many, many, many questions, very similar questions. How does this actually work? What does intuition and how does intuition play a role in missing persons investigations? And so today I want to take you behind the scenes. I'm going to explain to you how psychic detectives like me actually work, how we use our intuitive impressions, how they're received, how that information then can support investigators in their search for answers. But before I start that, I want to just take a moment to share with you something that's important because this is also a very common question that I got in the comments on my podcast. And that is that this case, the Nancy Guthrie case, is an active investigation at this time for myself and for the organization that I work with. And so, out of respect for the family and the investigators involved, I am not sharing any of my impressions or any information that is related to that case. If that's a problem for you, I get it. But as someone who does this work professionally, it's out of integrity. What I can do, though, is I can explain the process because so many of you had so many questions. Maybe you hadn't heard about this work or you didn't know that it actually was something that people really are working with police and working on missing persons cases, and that you wanted to learn more about how it actually works. How does it happen? And so I want to share just a little backstory and then we're going to dive in. I've got actually like images. I'm going to walk you through what we actually do to be able to give you the information, to give the information to the investigators, I should say, how some of us use maybe pendulums, along with all the other intuitive aspects that can go into this kind of work. So I think first off, just to share a little bit of background, I've been involved in the intuitive field teaching it for 25 years, but studying it for more like 42 years. For the past almost 20 years, I've been a part of an organization called Find Me. Find Me is a group of uh, intuitive people, psychics, mediums. There are also ex law enforcement agents. We have search and rescue animals and a search and rescue team that we work with as well. And so Find Me is an organization that really works behind the scenes. Our work is done quietly, it's done respectfully. We don't go and talk about it unless it's invited, unless we are invited to have conversations, to do interviews, TV shows, things like that. We really keep our information private. So when families or investigators are open to intuitive input, because as you probably know, not everybody is. But when people are open to that input, then we can gather with the psychics that are in our organization and we share with them the information that could actually be used to investigate whatever case it might be. In this situation, the one that I was talking about is the Nancy Guthrie case, but we've worked cases all over the world, literally, and traveled all over the world for our cases. Over the years, we've helped over 100 cases be solved and contributed to hundreds and hundreds more cases, anywhere from Japan to Canada to Mexico, all over the US. Many of us, as psychic investigators, have traveled to some of these locations to actually be able to work on the case and then contribute information to the local police departments that are involved if and when they are open to it. So the way that we begin the process really is by being invited. And that's something that oftentimes we're not invited until it's a cold case, until it's been years and years and years, sometimes decades. But once in a while, we're invited on the front end when a case is newer, which is great because then we have the potential. There's a couple of cases that have happened over the last 20 years where we actually were able to find somebody before harm came to them, before they died. That is not usually the end result, but it has been a couple of times, which has been really gratifying to us. And so, we recognize that intuition in and of itself, it comes in a variety of different ways. Not everybody understands it. Not everybody gets how it works. Certainly investigators, not all of them are open, and some of them are very, very open. So I think, where I want to start is one of the biggest misconceptions, I guess, that people have about psychic detectives is that, it just comes to us in like a movie screen and we just see everything exactly the way that it happened. And although that does actually happen sometimes, that's not the norm. The norm is more of intuitive impressions that are coming through like fragmented. We get an image, we have a symbol, we get a sign, we have a number, an address shows up, we get a license plate, a name, and they come in these different ways that for every individual investigator, that information shows up differently because we all have access to that intuition, but the way that it comes to us and through us is very different. So sometimes we also connect with the emotion of the circumstance or of the event or of the person that is missing, and sometimes of the person that is the suspect. So part of what we're doing and the way I describe it is it's like we're putting a puzzle together, but we don't always know what the puzzle looks like. So we're getting these pieces and we give all the pieces that each one of us individually gets. And then the leader of our organization takes all of that information that we gather through like we do kind of like a police report almost of information that comes to us, and they take that information, gather it all together, and then hand it over. And I think the challenge as a psychic investigator is that it doesn't all come together. It's not like this beautiful picture that just says, okay, here's the name, here's the address, here you go, da da da. Once in a while that does happen, but not most of the time. And it's not always super clear. And it's not the dramatic energy that TV and media make it sound like either. It's really an experience that requires a lot of patience, a lot of presence, and certainly an ability to be able to interpret the messages, the symbols, and the signs. And so I thought I would walk you through the general process because there are so many questions about actually how it works. And a lot of questions are people were like, I love this and I get intuitive experiences. I'd love to learn more about it. I'd love to be able to do this. And, there's so many levels and so many layers that are involved in this. Certainly I can't, go through it all, but I can certainly walk you through a general process. So first off, what happens generally is like, for example, in the Nancy Guthrie case, I had people reaching out to me the day she went missing, that are like, "Hey, Sonny, can you help on this?" But these are people that are on the outside; they're not family, and they weren't investigators. And I learned early in my career, and if you want to learn more about that, you can go and watch the podcast where I actually talked about this. I learned early in my career, I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to be standing on my own and giving that information for a variety of reasons that I shared in that podcast. So when I found the organization Find Me, it was really beautiful because I had the ability to then be able to use my skills, give information, help support humanity in the ways that I could, but not be kind of like the Lone Ranger over here on my own, which has worked out really, really well for me, and I think most of the psychic investigators that are in our group. So we don't just hear about a case and then go, oh, we want to work that case, because we have to know that people are willing to listen. And that might seem odd to some of you that are watching this, because if you're watching this, you have probably already have a belief in the ability that a psychic has, or an experience where you have had your own awareness or intuition around a certain situation. But we don't always know that that's the case. So we can't just go, hey, here's the headline of this case that's happening with this woman in Tucson, and we're going to work the case, because then we would have no place to give the information to. And over 20 years, there's been a lot of experience where um, we have wanted to work cases that people weren't willing to receive it. So many years ago, we kind of created some foundational structure around this, that either the family members of, or a family member of the person that's missing needs to come to us, or police, FBI, whoever needs to come to us. And when they come to our organization, our group, then we know we have at least one person that will take the information that we receive, and we hope follow through and do something with it. That's obviously the intention. So once we are assigned a case, which in the times where we were kind of the busiest, we were getting a case about every 10 days. And as we're all volunteers, so the organization is a not for profit organization. The leader of the organization volunteered his time. All of us as psychics volunteered our time, and so did the search and rescue teams. Like, we all volunteer our time. So when we're assigned a case, the first thing we do is we want to tune into the kind of the energetic signature and vibration of the person who is missing. Uh, and I spoke about this in the podcast as well. Every person carries like a unique imprint, a unique energetic imprint. And when we tune in and tap in and focus on that particular person's energy, then different impressions, different messages, different words, symbols, signs start to show up for us. Now, every psychic does this differently, so there isn't a right or wrong way. There isn't a way that this is the way you do it, because we all receive impressions differently. And so once we've kind of tapped into that energy, I'll speak for myself in the way that works for me, is once I've tapped into that energy, and tune into them, oftentimes in a meditative practice, then I start to receive impressions. And it's almost as if they're communicating with me through these impressions sometimes. And sometimes it's just that they're coming in different ways that might be, if you were not aware, feel pretty random. But when I put them together, I can see how they're, some of the puzzle pieces. So sometimes I'll see images. Sometimes it will be like a piece of a movie. Sometimes I will feel the physical sensations in my body. That's a very common one for me, and one that actually scared me in doing this work because of that. I can often feel the way people transitioned or died in my body. And it was disturbing. Uh, Initially, it was disturbing until I learned how to be able to hold and manage and maintain that energy. Sometimes we feel the emotions that are coming through. Sometimes we're feeling the energy of the environment, the sun, or the cold, or the density, or the lightness, the air, the wind, different things like that. We might feel water. We might feel underwater. We may feel woods or roads or big buildings or terrain of some sort. We also might feel like um, like density or pressure. Uh, Sometimes we will have messages. We'll hear like a voice that speaks to us, that says something. Maybe I remember one of the cases that we worked years ago where they told me, I'm in the water. and literally like just heard it. And so all of these ways, all of these impressions start coming through. Some of them are literal, and some of them are more symbolic. And then it's up to us as the psychic to then interpret what that information means. And this is where the uh, misinformation happens. This is where mistakes happen, because in translating the information and the symbols and the signs and the messages, uh, we often can get uh, we get the information and we interpret it from our frame of reference, the way we understand that to be, and that might not be the way that it actually is for that particular person. So, like if an impression comes through like a body of water or feeling separated or isolated, then the psychic has to actually translate that into something that is valuable and beneficial to the investigators to start to be able to narrow a search area, for example, if I was feeling water, or to help them understand the circumstances that are happening, with always the goal being to solve uh, um, eventually to solve the case. Our goal isn't necessarily to solve the case. Our goal is to give you as much information as we can get to give to the investigators so that they can go out and do the work that they're so good at to actually solve the case, find the perpetrator, find the body of the person, or if that person happens to be living, which is always the number one goal, uh, to be able to give details and different perspectives. And those details can come in so many different ways that maybe investigators haven't been aware of, because they're looking at the physical landscape. And although we get images of the physical landscape, we're also looking at the energetics, at the emotion, at the vibration levels. And that gives them another perspective to be able to pursue. Once we have that information, once we've done the work that we do as a psychic investigator, then we give all of that information in our group to our organizer, who puts all of that all those impressions, all the information. It really is more of like literally we do like a missing persons type of uh, form, that they take all that information, consolidate it, and then give it over to the investigators. And then the investigators have that information, and it is up to them in their time and their space and their own intuitive guidance, because some of them don't think they're intuitive at all, but lots of them are. That's why they can be so successful, I believe. And then they're in charge of the case, they do it, and we're kind of hands off at that point, unless or until we are invited in to actually work the case. Sometimes we have done that with the support of police and investigators, and sometimes we have been invited in by the families when the case has become cold, and then we will go to that location and do our work, because oftentimes when we're in the space of like where they went missing, for example, we have it's there's a stronger energy, and we can have the ability to tap in at an even deeper level that might give more information than what we were getting when we were sitting in our homes working our case. The intuitive input is just one aspect of many aspects of these types of cases, and the investigators are the ones that get to decide how they're going to use it or if they're going to use it. And I think that when we start kind of tuning into the intuition and tapping into that energetic footprint, which I imagine some of you have had happen, right? You get an image, you have a sense, you walk into that room, you feel this energy, you feel this tension, you feel this tightness. Uh, you have a knowing without even knowing what you know. And you may not know what it is. You just know that your intuition, your system is saying, something feels off here. I don't know. There's just something, right? And maybe you had clear information. That's exactly what we're doing as well. But we've just trained ourselves to have uh, to notice those very subtle messages and subtle signals even more clearly. So I had a lot of different questions come in. I thought I'd answer a few of them. One of the biggest questions was, uh, are psychic detectives always right? And the answer absolutely is no, they are not. And maybe this is confusing, maybe it makes you doubt it. And a lot of times people say, well, that's why I'm a skeptic. The reality of it is though, is intuition is symbolic and it's very interpretive. So it's important to recognize that when we are interpreting the information, that's where we can get it wrong because we can only interpret it from our frame of reference. So, as an example, if let's say I was doing a deep dive and I was working on a case and I keep seeing a fire, let's just say I keep seeing a fire, I might interpret fire as, oh, they were burned to death. But somebody else might interpret fire as it's an area where it's hot. Somebody else might interpret it as they're in a camping area, right? There's a lot of different ways of interpretation, and that's where the best psychics in the world can be wrong. So, no, we don't get it all right, and no, we don't solve every case. Part of the reality of this is yes, there's human error, and also when we hand our cases over, we don't know what's followed through or not. We don't know what the investigators look into and what they don't. We give all the information with an open heart and with the intention to serve, and then we hope that they follow up on the things that are coming through. Now, I did a case with our group, uh, gosh, probably 15 years ago now. And the investigators, even up to like the chief of police, they were so supportive. Like they took all of our information, they gathered it, they really looked at this case, and it was one of the cases that we were able to solve. That the police chief directly came out and said that the information that our organization gave directly led them to the missing person. And I felt blessed and honored that there were several of us that were within 100 feet of location wise, 100 feet of where they discovered the body in another state, right? Halfway across the United States. That is that's why we do this work, right? Uh, and it's amazing how some of those impressions can and that one piece of information can just create, a situation where they can find somebody, and then other times it takes a lot more time. And and so we never really know what they follow through, what they do and what they don't. Every case, of course, is different, and the important thing is that we're doing the work that we're doing um, because we are guided to, because I think we're meant to. And although over the last 5 years especially, I haven't worked as many cases. The I get called in on more high profile cases or cases where we're getting it on the front end. We're getting it earlier, like in the Nancy Guthrie case. Like in this case, even though it's feels like forever and it's been, I think, 6 weeks at this point, in the big scheme of missing persons situations, usually we're not called in until a decade, 2 decades later. So this is a case that for sure I am going to be uh, actively working with the Find Me group to give them support and give them my impressions as well. One of the other questions that I've gotten a lot is that, okay, everybody's like, I love this and I love intuition and this is so cool. And I get some of these things and I have some of these dreams and I have visions and sometimes I have awareness and I feel like I know something and I want to help or I want to contribute to, but I can't always count on it. I don't always know if I am exactly getting it right. And I, like almost like I need to practice. And that's exactly it. You need to practice. It's helpful to develop those skills. I've taught classes over the years, helping people develop their mediumship skills, their psychic detective skills, their connection to their angel skills, all the above. And as psychic investigators, one of the things that we do is we really connect with our spiritual support team, whatever that is for you. For me, it's my angels and my guides, my loved ones in spirit. And I'm always working with my team because they're what's helping me to channel and connect with that energy. And so one of the things so many people asked, and so I'm going to offer and share this with you now, is if you are somebody looking to develop your skills, you want to connect more with your team, you can go to schooloflight.biz/webinar. I'm giving a free webinar on April 7th where I'm going to teach you about your spirit team, the team around you, the energy of light that is around you that can help you to open up and develop your intuition. So again, the link is schooloflight.biz/webinar. And you can come and join us for free to learn a little bit more about your spirit team and start to dive in to your development of your skills. Now, the other thing that I want to share is because I talked so much about how we work, what I wanted to give you an idea of, because people are really interested in literally like how you do this. And again, as I mentioned, there's so many different ways, but I do want to share one of the ways that we work, I work, I'll say, is if I tune into a particular area. So generally when we get a case, we get a name, we get a birth date, we get the day they went missing. We get a picture of them. And sometimes we get a couple of sentences about where they went missing, city, state, or what they were doing when they went missing. So, went for a walk and they were missing from this city and this state. That's about all the detail we get on a case. And we do not listen or watch any other information news about that when we're working a case. So once we get to a place where, like for myself, where I feel like I'm pulled into a particular area that I feel that that person may be, whether it's their body, whether it's a suspect, because we do work on that at times too, meaning if that information comes to us, we give that as well. Then we take a map. So I've just printed one of the maps. This was actually a case we worked 15 years ago or so. So we take that map and I use a pendulum. And so if I were to, just to give you an example, if I were to be tuning in, I would print the map out. I also use Google Earth a lot. But once I get to a place and I keep moving, I start out like, let's say in a state, and then I feel pulled to a particular area, and then I expand that and I expand it and I expand it until I feel like I'm close to the area. Then I'll print it out like here. And then I would take my pendulum and I actually would just run the pendulum to tune into the energy to see where I'm feeling pulled. And then once I get a particular area, so like right here, it's interesting because it's saying the same area that this case actually did happen in. Once I get to an area, then I would actually go and pull that area up, print that, and then I'd get just a little bit closer. You're right. So I'm dialing into the particular area. This is the way that has worked for me in giving latitude and longitude points for recovery of a body or where the location of the person or the suspect happens to be. So that's one of the things. It's hard to show you, but I'll start on the Google Earth and then print out once I fine tune it, then print out again, make it bigger, make it bigger, make it bigger so I can get down to a latitude and longitude so I can get to a house, an area in the desert, etc. That's how I work. Now, the other thing that happens, and I thought I would share this with you, when we get assigned a case, we actually use a form that we fill out that basically asks, who is the person, who's the case we're working on, and who is it that's reporting, and what time and day are you doing this report? Is the person missing? I mean, is the person alive or deceased or unknown? You're not sure. And then the missing person's location. So the questions are, and our job is to fill these in. So the questions are for the missing person's location, the address or the street or the road, the town, the city, the county, the state, the country, the landscape, the area description around their particular. So are they in a house? Are they in a lake? Where do they happen to be? Then we focus on the suspect's personal and physical descriptions. So, how many suspects are there? Do we know their names, their gender, their race, their age, their weight, their body type, their height, their hair color, their style, any kind of characteristics, tattoos, maybe they limp, something like that, and any other identifying features of the suspect? Then it's the same thing, suspect location, city, state, address, town, country, the area, the landscape. And then vehicle, if there was a vehicle involved, what is the vehicle? The style, the type, the license plate, the model, the make, the color, and any other identifying information about the vehicle. And then lastly is basically a narrative. So the narrative is where we just lay it all out. This is what I see. This is what I feel. This is what I know outside of the details of the description. And once that's done, then we turn that in, and 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 then we have to release it, and we have to trust that the information that we gave was the information that was necessary, uh, and and hold the vision that the detectives that are on that case take that information and follow through. And I want to remind you that in this work, it was really difficult for me initially. It's emotional. It's highly emotional. When I think of the Nancy Guthrie case, it's highly emotional. Many of us have parents or grandparents, and we can't imagine what that would feel like to have our loved one missing. And oftentimes, I will feel the pain of those that are around, which was such a challenge in learning how to manage and hold my energy. And gratefully, I've learned enough tools to be able to still take care of myself and honor my body and my energy and my needs, and still do the work that we're meant to do. Every single human being is intuitive, and you that is listening right now, you have intuitive abilities. You might not ever choose to be a psychic detective, and you might not fine tune your skills to that level, but there are many people that choose to do that. And when you recognize your intuition, again, you might not be using this for psychic detective work, but you can certainly use this for your own life, right? You have the ability to have these experiences that you sense things that don't really make sense or that you don't really have proof of. So psychic detectives are doing the same thing, but we're just fine tuning it more, and we're just focused on it, and staying in that energy longer, and have developed that skill. But you can use your intuition, and you can develop that skill as well. And because it's really helpful, intuition is really helpful in all aspects of life, in your relationships, in the decisions that you're making, in tuning in to decide, like, does this feel right, does it not feel right? Your teenager tells you something, you're like, I don't know, that didn't feel true, right? So intuition is huge. I feel blessed to do the work that I do. I hope this has brought some value to you. And if you are wanting to develop your intuition, jump on my webinar in April. I think you'd get some value out of it, especially for so many of you that have reached out, have shared in the comments on the last podcast, that really are interested and intrigued to develop their skills even more. And I just want to close just by saying, that my heart and my thought and my prayers are with Nancy Guthrie and every person that has been touched by her. I have been really amazed at how many people in the world are so connected to this case and the emotion of this case. And so my heart also goes out to the investigators, that they're able to continue their search and to be able to find her. Cases like this, I think, remind us of how interconnected we all are, and that sometimes, answers come from unexpected sources. So, thank you, my friend, for being here. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to like it and subscribe it and share and let other people know. I'd love for you to comment and let me know what you think about the psychic investigation work. And maybe you have some questions, throw those in there too. I do read the comments and I do respond personally to the comments. And come and join me for more conversations if you're interested in intuition, spiritual development, personal development, and more experiences like this. Please come and join me on my podcast Tuesdays at noon. I do it live on YouTube, or you can watch the recording at any time. And you know what? If you have ever had those moments where your intuition is speaking really clear to you, I'd love to hear about them. All right. Take care, friends. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you on a future podcast. Have a great one.